Alright, so here we are in the project. I've opened Adobe Premiere Pro and I've just labeled this SJSU Masters Project. And this is the window where this is where you see your video, this is the timeline, and this is where you load the videos to your, um, your clipboard. So let me go ahead and open up my downloads. So I have the piano accompaniment, I need to put that over, and then I have these three videos that I'm going to also be adding. So I'm just going to highlight them all and drag them over. Okay, so now I see that they're in there. So each of these are going to be a different video. They're all about the same length, 301, 253, and 303. Now the sound recording is the master, so that's really going to be the first major recording that I'm going to be doing. But I'm going to find the one where it's virtually the same. So this is, so knowing the order that I put these in, I'm going to drag that over there where it's here, and you'll see that we have a couple of lines here. So this is the video 1, video 2, video 3, and this is the audio 1, audio 2, audio 3. You can always add more. Now here's a little trick. If you want to kind of see that timeline a little bit bigger, you can do that. Alright, so that you're going to see these two lines. It's going to be the video and then audio, V1 audio. So right now it's unlocked, which means that the video will move at the same time as the audio, right? Now, if I put that back to the original spot and I lock that, the video stays put, but the audio can move. All right, and that can move all over the place. Now, you don't want that when you're doing a virtual wire. You want the video and the audio to line up perfectly. So you always want to do that. Now, the only time you would do that was if there was some syncing off, like if you had a different audio file for the video and you wanted to move one or the other. But for the most part, you're not going to do that. All right, so there's 2980. Now I know I need 2982. And again, I'm just going to put that in there. And I want to point something out to you that's important, because if you look at the sound waves, which are at the bottom, you can kind of tell where they begin. So I'm going to have to do some editing of this, because this peak, because this is the bass and this is the baritone line, they should line up. All right, now when I put the tenor part in there, you're going to see that that's going to be nothing for a long, long time, right? So you have all these seconds. You have about 30 seconds of just the bass and baritone. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave that there. Now I am going, oh, no, that's odd. Let me, because that wasn't put all the way over. So I'm going to just slide over and make sure that it's back at 0. All right. So then maybe it's not as far. It's just a couple of beats different. You can see the apex there. All right. Now I'm going to add one more audio. So you right click, and I'm going to just right click on where it says audio 1. Whoops, I don't want that. So I'm going to click over here on the right side, and I'm going to right click where it says add track. So I'm going to add a track at the top. It says add 1 video track, add 1 audio track. Now I could say add 0 video tracks, because I'm not adding a video, I'm just adding an audio track. And there you go. Now we have audio 4, 3 video and 4 audio. And in that 4th audio, I'm going to put my piano track. So you can see there's a big spike there and there's a big spike there. So in the recording of that, if I just play that, and I'm going to just S for solo track, just play that, so only that's playing, and I press play, you're going to hear a couple claps. 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to start with the piano. So I put those little claps in there so that hopefully you could see them, and I put them a little bit in there. So now what I need to do is, the first thing I do is I try to line up the audio. So I have to just solo, again I'm going to solo that, which is audio 1, which is the first video, and the piano accompaniment. Now if I spread this out like that, it makes it more condensed and I can see more of it. But it's much more difficult to do the intricate shuffling. So you can always right click and you can make the other windows shrink so that you can expand the areas that you want. So if I want to just focus and look at the sound waves, I need those to be very wide, and in order to make them wide so you can really kind of see the nuances, you're going to do this sidebar here, and see that I'm going to push that up, 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 so I can see more than one audio track. Now, because I can't really see the third, I'm going to keep that like that. Alright, so I'm going to just solo these two. There's clap 1. So it's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I am, and then I should hear a sing. So that was much farther than where I need it to be. So what I need to do is I'm going to spread this out, go back to the beginning, and I'm going to see this little red arrow. That is a delete button, so I can delete. Right now that's about, what is that, about 11 seconds. I'll say, we'll say 10 seconds. I'll try to get as close to 10 as possible. So we go and listen, and this is important here. This is I'm gonna flag 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, and I put that little flag there. Let's do that one time in case you missed it. So see the little green flag? That tells me that's when the music starts. In the quiet. And because I know that there are only 5 notes before, or 5 chords before the singing, I can then move this to be closer to where the piano is. So let me start back here. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 5. So that was too early. So I'm going to zoom in. So if this is the first one, the first piano chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's actually on the 6th beat of that phrase that I need to start. So I'm going to pause it when it gets to just before 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right there is where the singing begins. Now you can see this little peak here. That's going to tell me that's where there's sound. And I'm moving that up, and that's volume. So I can always move that volume. But I'm going to left click and drag to approximately where that line is. So let's try that. 2, 3, 4, 5, in. So that was a little late. So now I need to just approximate here and using the guide above and see if that's going to help me. So let's see. It's on the 6th beat that it comes in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that was perfectly lined up. So what I can do then is I can go backwards, and I know that right around there is where the 6th beat is. So I can flag that again, and now I am able to locate where do I need to start. Now I'm going to move all of these down because you can tell, or at least this one, and just move that over, and that's not quite lined up. I can just move a little bit more, just ever so slightly. That's too much. Now in order to go really fine, I have to make that really small. I make this one really small, and then I just lean it over a little bit. Alright, that's not quite, it's not too bad, but let's listen. 2, 3, 4, 5.
In the quiet
Good. Let's try that one more time. Solo, 2, 3, 4, 5.
in the quiet
So it's not quite right, and you can see it doesn't line up perfectly. So I'm going to move it over just a hair and see if that makes it a little more lined up.
in the quiet
Now again, that's not quite perfect, so I can squeeze in and move it ever so slightly to the left. That might be too much, but let me try.
in the quiet misty morning.
That's pretty good. Now I know that it's it's on the next 6 counts that the next voice comes in. So let's go back here and we'll just count. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now that's when the next singer should come in. Now if I have this lined up, this should be the singing and that of the next phrase, and that should come straight in. Let's try that again. So it's a little bit early, so I need to move it just, whoops, again, I'm going to move the volume. I'm going to move that just slightly so that I can get that line up. Lined up. All right, whoops. Oh dear, I don't want to do that. Let's go back, and go back on the timeline. We can even start from the top.
2, 3. In the quiet misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, then the sparrows up there singing, and the sky is clear and red. When the summer is gleaming, and the gold.
So you can hear there's a little bit of a, there's a little bit, one of the voices is too loud, and it's this third voice. So I'm going to bring that down and bring up the baritone voice a little bit so it matches what's going on here. So where are we at with the baritone? Okay, or the bass, we're at, let's 5.3, and I think that the baritone is also at 5.3, yep. And what about the tenor? Let's make sure that that's also at 5.3. Very gentle. There we go. Okay, so now the volumes are all the same. Now you can kind of look at the sound waves and notice that, okay, for the most part, you see the peaks and the hills all lined up. So at the beginning, the first bum ba da da yum bum ba dum ba da 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 dee dee dee, and then it's more or less lined up, right? And then there's a little bit of delay, and then we begin with the second verse. So let me zoom in just to kind of look at where is it going astray. So you can tell the tenor part is just a smidge ahead. So because I'm zoomed in, I have a little more control. So if you look at those numbers, you can like right now it went from 0 to 5. So let me zoom in even further, and I'm just going to move it like 1 or 2 fractions of a second. 1. Let's try that.
Set me free by my body, and I'll return to smile.
So that's pretty good. That's pretty good, and I can appreciate, there's a little bit of the bass part which is not quite right, but I think that just has to do with user error in the way I sang it. So I'm going to now show you, this is very important, sequence. You want to look at sequence settings, and you always want it, okay, so this is typically different from the way it usually is. Usually it's the other way around, where it is 1920 by 1080. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. That's the setting if you wanted it to be vertical. Beautiful. So see how it made that screen larger? And so what I need to do is I need to make these smaller so that we have all 3 lined up. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to move that one over. And I'm going to also rotate or get the sizing just right. There we go. Now it's a little bit larger than the one on the left because it's going to be a continuation of the frame. So it looks like this is all on an angle rather than... There we go. So you can play with that also in the controls, and I'll show you how to do that. So that's pretty good. And what happens if I play it? So I've got a slower compressor.
Kiss me, you're missing. If
So it sounds like that bass line is just a little bit too much off for my liking. And so you can see how it doesn't quite line up properly. So let me see if I can just move that over just a little bit without causing too much drama in the playback, so that it's much more in line. So let me go ahead and go back a little bit.
set me free by my calling, and I'll return to smile.
just need to check how does it relate to the beginning. Not going to affect the sound.
3. In the quiet morning, the moon has gone to bed, when the singing and the sky is clear and red.
Okay, so that's pretty good. Now again, my playback speed is a little bit glitchy. You hear those sounds in there, and that's just because my processor is a little bit slower. I'm using a 7th generation Intel Core i5. Really, Adobe Premiere Pro works best um, on 10th generation or Core i7. It's just a faster processing speed. Unfortunately, this is what I have to work with. So I feel better about that, and before we render it, we'll hear a complete listen. Now I want to just point out, so let's move these windows over again. So see how when you move that, it does that. So you can check here at the audio mixer and see what the volume is. So the piano's not at a louder volume. I can do that as well. When we look here at, we have the project media browser that shows us all the clips. When we go up here to editing, this is really important here. And this tells us all sorts of goodness. So if we want to reposition, we can using the arrows. Left will take that, whoops, or I'm sorry, if we go up, highlight it. All right, if we push up arrow, the numbers move the picture. If you look at the frame, it's moving that picture to the left, or I'm sorry, to the right as you're looking at it. If you push down, it moves it to the right. Now, if you want to move it up and down, you click on the other device, and you can, again, using up or down, it'll either move. If you push up, it goes down. If you push down, it goes up. So I'm going to, so remember I was trying to line up those, so there we go. So those lines are all lined up now. Now you can also crop the pictures, but you have to find it. It's a little bit quirky how you get there. So let me go ahead and make this part faster. So we go down here where it says effects, and then we search for crop. Oops, that's it. And what we do is we drag that from there up here, and in this menu then we'll see crop. So if I wanted to, let's just say, see how this, you see the red there? If I wanted to edit that and crop it, I would double click on that picture, and I would go down to crop, pull this up. You have to do this for every picture if you want to do it, if you want to edit it. And you can begin to crop up or down, left or right. So you can just make it smaller that way. Because it's on the outer side of the frame, I have to click on position. There we go. So because I've been able to move it up and down, I can then now go to the cropping tool and crop that, so I don't see that. Same, so I can do that now with all three of those and get an approximate location for that. So I want to move that up. You want to make sure you move the picture. There's that little bar there that makes it a little bit difficult. If you move it, it changes things. So crop isn't there, so I need to drag it up again and put it in there. All right, and for this one now, all right, move it up. And I can also play with it. So if I want to make each picture the same size, I can do that as well. I just need to be prepared. I just have to deal with that line not being equal. So if I want to make those relatively the same size, there we go. And then I'm going to move it down. So if I wanted to leave that little black border on either side, now I'm just going to move this down. There we go. Oh, and see how it's not quite even? I'm going to use this to zoom in and move it good and make that a little clearer and a little bit more in alignment. So it's still not exactly in alignment. So what I do is I can change the zoom and I can look at 75% and I can go back and forth and see which one is irksome to me. And let me just double check here. Oh, they're all irksome. So let me just go ahead and fix this one. So I'm going to go here and click on that until it looks aligned to me. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to go over here, and that looks a little bit misaligned. So I'm going to just adjust that. Again, I'm pressing the down key, the down arrow, and that's making it rise. All right, good. So let's check the view now to fit the window. And those appear to be a little more the right size and in alignment with each other. So let me go ahead and just play it again from the beginning.
Three, two.
Oh, there I am clapping. Now let's say I didn't want to see all of that and I didn't want to see all the clapping. So what I can do, and you can see the sound file from when that clap happened. If I wanted to just start just before the music, so I know that's when the music starts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit that just before so that the music and there we go, and the pictures all start together. So let me go ahead and get number 2 and kind of line it up. Now this is important. See how that little arrow up at the top here? See how that line that came on? If I am in alignment, it'll come on. If it's not in alignment, it won't come on. So you want to look for that. So that's in alignment. And because I need to zoom in a little bit more, let me scroll up. So with the third one, again, I'm going to see those little gray, it looks like an arrow or a triangle. That tells me I'm in alignment. And let's just see what happens with our sound. I'm going to pause just before it. I wonder if I went too far. And if I did, that's a good example for you. So let me go ahead and start it again. And hopefully those videos and the music will all start at the same time.
In the quiet misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, and the sky is clear and red, when the summer ceases gleaming, when the corn is past its prime, adventures lost its meaning, I'll be homeward bound in time.
perfectly lined up. And if I had more voices, I could certainly adjust it more with timing and get more nuance. With only 3 voices, that can be problematic. But um, with more singers, there's an acoustic phenomenon where the waves actually start to line up a little bit. They cancel the off singing a little easier. But because this is a 1 person, 3 voices, and there is some user error there. But let's hear how the rest of it happens.
When you find it's me you're missing, if you're hoping I'll return to your thoughts to be listening. In the road I'll stop and turn, then the wind will set me racing as my journey nears its end, and I'll be retracing when I'm homeward bound again. I need not to the pasture, take me not to the plough, set me free to find my calling, and I'll return to you somehow.
So the difficulty in this is that even though I'm listening to a click, you saw me putting my earbuds back in, even though I'm listening to a click, and I literally was listening to a metronome counting 1, 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and there's slight variation. And this is similar to what happens when you have a group of people where there is in a live performance where there are slight variations. And so because I'm not too concerned about that right now, I can deal with that. But in the long run, for the most part, it lines up. The harmonies are there, the words are intelligible, and the singing, all parts are represented.
In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, I'll be homeward bound again.
Now, if you notice, that was the end of the song. And there was a little click there, a little pop that I was listening for. And that, to me, was the cutoff. So I stopped it where I thought, and what I can do is I can, just like I was making the videos longer or shorter, I'm doing that now, and I'm looking for that gray arrow to tell me that it's lined up. Now that last part was a little bit unusual because I wasn't conducting, I was playing the piano, and if I conducted myself, I'd be able to get a little closer for the overall effect. And in fact, maybe I'll do that, and I'll add that conducting in there for a follow-up so you can see the difference. Because both of the versions will be relatively the same, except when I'm watching and following the visual cue. That should help with the timing. All right, so now let's just say that I'm happy with all of these and see how that music starts just before, and I want to make sure that it all comes up together. So what I'm doing is I'm just extending it. If you go too far, you can always extend. Let me just replay it and make sure that we are viewing at let's go 100%. So the screen's going to need to be shrunk so that the playback box can fit. That's what I wanted. And because my screen's not big enough to accommodate that, let's try maybe at 50%. There we go. So I'm going to rewind just a little bit.
In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, and the sky is clear and red.
So I'm pretty satisfied with that for this take. For our purposes, again, I'm going to redo the video, and it's going to be exactly the same process, and I'll come back and show you the difference at the end. Now that we have the video all queued up for performance, now we just have to export it. So we go down here to go under File, under Export, and we go to Media. And when we do that, it says Output Name, and so I'll just write Homeward Bound Video 1, and I'm going to put that in my videos. It's going to save it as an MP4, which is what you want. This is important. You want this H.264. Make sure that that's there. Double check your sequencing. So 1920 by 1080. That's good. 30 frames per second. That's exactly right. So once everything else is pretty cute, it is pretty fine. It's queued up. And then we just hit export. And then we let it export, so it's going pretty quickly here. Bigger files tend to go a little bit slower, so we have to export it and then we encode it. So when we go to export it, it's going to encode it, and like this is saying about 3-4 minutes. So we just have to wait for it and be patient. Oh, it's going up. And just for saving time, we're not going to sit here for the full 8 minutes. So here we are, just 9 seconds remaining. All right, just a few seconds remaining. And it should be encoded and saved. Now, if I go to that file, under videos, I should be able to find it there. And there we go, Homeward Bound. So there you go. It was a little bit shaky in a few spots, but overall, it was a pleasant experience, and the sound was good, and it even made some interesting awareness to some of the mistakes. But for a quick video on how to make a virtual choir with Adobe Premiere, I hope this was helpful.